In today's video, we're checking out a webcam called the OBSBot. This is the Meet 4K. Now, I've tried to say this right 100 times and I keep getting it wrong, so I'm going to refer to this as the OBS bot because I say OBSBot, it's just not rolling off the tongue whatsoever. So yeah, anyway, that's the kind of guy I am. Welcome to the channel. I'm going to give this a full pros and cons review, but before we get started, a massive thank you to Pergear for sending this out for the review. I really appreciate it. If you want to check this out, I'll link it below. One of the reasons why I agreed to review this is because they didn't want just a positive review. I don't like doing that. I don't like just showcasing products in perfect light. I like to point out some of the pros and cons and what you need to know about any piece of electronics. So if you're into this kind of stuff, don't forget to subscribe, click the bell, leave a thumbs up, comment below, all that kind of good stuff. It really helps the channel. I'm going to timestamp each section of this video down in the description below. And if you're just here to see whether or not it compares favorably up against the Logitech C920, I'm going to cover that as well. First up, let's do a quick unboxing. So far, the packaging very heavily reminds me of Apple, which is kind of like what all companies do. There's some instruction manuals and so forth. Here we have the webcam itself. Ooh. First impressions of the build quality is it's nice and light, but it still feels really strong in the hand, which is great. So very cool. There's also a secondary box in here. Included, we get a USB to USB-C cable. We also get a privacy shield. So if you want your webcam covered up, you can use one of these. We get a USB-C to USB-A adapter. So if you plan on using this with a conventional rectangular port on your computer, you can do that with the same cable. It just clicks on the end. We also get this really functional and flexible magnetic holder for the webcam. Now, the webcam along the bottom here can just simply be magnetized onto this. It's quite strong, this magnet, and it just hooks up like that. So if you want to hook it up to your favorite computer, whatever that may be, you can just simply stand it up like this and you're good to go. To kick things off, let's do a quick video comparison. What you're looking at right now is the video quality of the built-in webcam on my M1 2020 MacBook Air. The audio will be thanks to my camera's audio because it's so much better to listen to. We'll do an audio test later, but I just wanted to showcase what kind of quality you can get from a built-in webcam before we go over to the C920. And now I'm over to the legendary Logitech C920 webcam recording at 1080p, whereas the Mac webcam records at 720p. All of these will be upscaled on a 4K timeline. So can you see a massive difference between this and the prior webcam? Let's go over to the new one. And now over to the OBS bot. Let's take a look at this. Hopefully this looks a little bit better. Just in my eyeball test, I did notice a difference. This is without any custom settings with the field of view set to 86 degrees. I'm about to give you a rundown of the software and show you all the really cool things that this can do because it's not like any of the other webcams. Let's take a look at some of the powerful software that you can download for the OBSBot. This is really cool. We get 3 fields of view. So what you're looking at right now is 86 degrees. We also have 78, which brings it in, it crops it in a little bit further, and all the way into 65. So if your computer's a little bit further back, for example, or you're further back and you want less, of the room showing, then you can use 65. 78 will bring it wider, and 86 will bring it even wider. So now you can see the edge of my curtain there. I'm just going to bring this in. But one of the cool things about it is you've got auto framing. So if you're going to be moving around in the frame and you want the software to keep track of you, look at this, it becomes a pan tilt zoom camera. How great is this? The camera itself isn't moving, it's dead stationary right there, but it works, I think, almost better than some of these other actual PTZ cameras I've used in the past because it's not as big, it's nice and small, and the image quality is pretty comparable. Now, if we take a look on the left-hand side of the software, we have all of these different options. So I've got the flicker rate set to 50 Hertz because I'm in the PAL region. If you're in North America, set it to 60 Hertz and you won't have any issues with flicker, or you can just leave that feature off. HDR is high dynamic range mode. I would just say leave this off. Most people working with a webcam won't need any sort of HDR. It's just unnecessary. You can see that I've got autofocus enabled. I think this works pretty well. That's autofocus. You can see it adjust right there. It's also pulling the frame back and forth because I've got auto framing enabled. But autofocus works okay on this. You don't get any sort of background separation or blur. If you want that, get a camera like this guy over here. But basically for a webcam, I think it works pretty great. Now we also have face auto exposure. We can turn this on or off. It was actually off, so I'm just going to leave this set to on and see whether or not we get, you can see the changes in the auto exposure as I move back and forth here. Let's just turn that back off. Now we also get noise reduction. I'll turn that on and I'll just leave it on to see whether or not you can see a massive difference. You'll probably notice less detail now on my skin, which is probably a good thing. We also get this really cool function and kind of like hilarious called virtual background. I'm sure you've seen this online by now. This is just a really easy way of adding a crazy background to any sort of webcam scene, whether you're on Skype or whatever the case may be. You can go over to replacement over here and you can change it to whatever you like, or you can import your own. I actually think this works pretty well considering the kind of background I have, where I've got a really bright light right behind me and a studio light above my head and one in the room here. I think this is doing a really great job. Now this is good lighting, but it would also generally confuse a webcam, and I think it handles this really quite well. So if you want the virtual background off, you can simply turn it off and it will take a moment and then it will kick back into regular mode. So this is great. Alongside the 3 fields of view, we also have a really powerful zoom function and PTZ or pan tilt zoom style function, and I'll show you that right now. If we take a look on the right here, I'm set at 86 degrees, which is the widest field of view, and I want to use the zoom function to maybe reframe the shot a little bit better. So if we want to just zoom in, we can. This will go all the way into 4 times, right? Because this is a 4K webcam, but it's running at 1080p because of the digital zooms. Now we also have this really cool direction option down here as well, which acts like a PTZ or pan tilt zoom camera. We can move this around like this and to the other side. We can move it down and we can also move it up. So this is really powerful, and remember, we can just move the zoom in and out however we like. If you want to reset everything, hit the reset button and we're good to go. I'm just going to take the zoom off here and go back to 86 degrees and turn back on auto framing. Auto framing takes a second or so to kick back in, but once it realizes you're moving around like it just did, then it moved and everything's good to go. So this works really great. If we go up to close up right now, this is probably better for a seated headshot. I think the upper body one works better when you're actually standing in frame, but experiment around, see which one works best for you. One of the modes I'm unable to test right now is group mode. I've got it set to single mode. If I click over to group mode, both of the options under it disappear. So close up and upper body are gone. If you're going to be working on your own, for example, or doing any type of live streaming, leave the auto framing on if you so choose and keep it set to single mode. And that way it'll move around if you so need to do that. But this is one of those things, not everyone will need it. You might just turn auto framing off and set the webcam up manually and just leave it as is. It's really up to you how you choose to use it. Let's do a quick audio test. You're listening to the built-in microphone on my MacBook, which should leave both of these two for dead. The video quality might not though, and this will also be a test of each of these cameras. And now you're listening to the onboard microphone on the Logitech C920. How does this compare up against the built-in microphone on the Mac? Let's try the OBS bot, or OBS bot. And now you're listening to the audio from the OBS bot onboard microphone system. Now this microphone, it's usable, but it's very bright sounding. It doesn't have much of that chesty sound whatsoever. It's got a lot of high end, so I don't really love this. My suggestion would be to use an external microphone or even an onboard microphone on your laptop. May sound better than the one that's built into this camera. Thanks for watching, folks. My name's Shane. I'm going to wrap this video up by talking about the pros and cons of the OBS bot. So let's talk about what this does extremely well. The video quality is quite good. It will never replace a mirrorless camera, at least not in my setup, but if you just want an upgrade over, say, the MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro or any Windows laptop webcam, odds are this will be a huge improvement. I think the biggest selling point for this are for folks who want that AI tracking and pan tilt zoom functionality. This is where it really shines. I could see that being very usable in different scenarios, especially if you're doing some sort of meeting or if you want to stand up and talk and address an audience online. That way you can do it and know that the webcam's going to be following you and zooming back and forth, which kind of brings me to the point. It says 4K on the front, but once you start digitally zooming in, it's more like a 1080p webcam, and I think it does that extremely well. Now, audio quality wise, I didn't love it. It sort of sounded a little nasty to my ear, but it sounds nowhere near as good as the built-in microphones on my MacBook. So if you're going to be buying this, you're buying it for its video quality, and you're also buying it for the feature of having it move and to be able to replace the background. I like the fact you can change the flicker rates, which is pretty common on a lot of other webcam software. And the replacing the background thing worked really, really well, at least in my room right here, where, like I said, I got mixed lighting behind me and on top of me here and all that kind of stuff. and it handled that without any problems. When it comes to build quality, the Osbot Meet 4K feels really good in the hand. It does feel like a more premium and modern device over that of the Logitech C920. So if you're rocking one of these old school webcams that are basically bulletproof and you're looking for something different with that movement functionality, this will make a whole lot of sense. I think this is a great unit when it comes to its video quality and features, but the only small downside is the audio quality is not great, and that the software crashed when I was exiting the program, but no big deal. I guess I could just reopen it and use it again, but it's definitely worth mentioning. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let us know what you think of this, and I will catch you on the next video. See ya.